No, just good morning, everybody. We have, I know, had some technical assistance going on and some monitoring going on, and we're going to continue with that. It looks like we're doing a much better job on eligibility and getting people moved into registrant status with the LWIAs. So now our big push is going to be on services, and we're going to be looking at that. And Tara and I have divided you guys out some. So she's going to take Chicago, and I'm taking the downstate. So we'll be working with you guys to make sure that we're getting services entered the system and entered correctly. But besides that, I'm going to turn it over to Natasha, and she's going to go over her information.
Okay, great. So if you haven't already checked in, make sure you check in. And then we do have a chat pod down at the bottom about what are some other technical assistance webinars that you would like us to cover. And then go ahead and enter that information. And then also wanted to know what other school districts you're affiliated with. So if you haven't answered that, go ahead and do that in the lower right-hand corner in the chat area. And if you haven't already done this, don't worry. You can either jump in and do it while I'm talking, or I'll make it available at the end of the webinar so that everyone can enter that information.
And Natasha, I want to make one comment. Make sure you scroll down that list because I see East St. Louis, but there's a lot more that are down below that for the schools. So make sure you scroll down to see all the schools that are mentioned.
Yep. Yeah, it depends on the size of your screen. So sometimes other people can see it all, and other times they'll need to scroll. They have scroll bars within each of the pod areas. Okay, so today what we wanted to talk about, we've had some calls from people that had some questions about, where to enter information and where to, what to include, and what does it mean to have an individualized service strategy, or a lot of times in online worknet we call it the ISTEP, individualized services training and employment plan. And so this is kind of going to be a two-part technical assistance. First of all, what we wanted to do was to put together an approach of what are the components that go into that service strategy. And we have a lot of people that are used to the WIOA process, and they're part of it. We have people that are new to that process and the requirements, and so we don't want to make any assumptions. So some of this might seem elementary, but we really want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that we have the same type of expectations and definitions. And then the other part of that is that we have tools that you can use that are in Illinois WorkNet, and we say, oh, well, make sure you enter in the ISTEP or the individualized service strategy into Illinois WorkNet. And we have the different tools, the different pieces and parts that are all together that are in there where you can collect the information, but it's not is just like straightforward as if you're filling out a paper document and it has all this information. My WorkNet has the areas that you can enter in the information that would be required or as a best practice. But it might be in the different areas. So that's something that as an enhancement in the future that we can work on is providing a better way to enter that information and have it all in place so that it falls within more of like the traditional appearance of an individualized service strategy, or in my WorkNet, an ISTEP. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull up on my screen, and this is available on the, this will pull open for me. This is available on Illinois WorkNet in the partner guide. and it is also available in the lower left-hand corner. It's the Istep Rubric. And I'm going to go ahead and make this bigger here so you can see it. So what we wanted to do is just, we're trying to be consistent with using a rubric approach so that we can clearly define what the standards are and then what it means to exceed standards. And then we also have, we added a column to this page just to identify the different pieces and parts and the tools that are in LMI WorkNet where you can collect this information and where it comes from. So one of the things that we really wanted to stress with this rubric is it's a draft, and that this is kind of like our first attempt to really pull all this information together and express it in a rubric format. And so I hope this is helpful. And if you have any comments or questions or suggestions for improvement upon this rubric, we are definitely open to that. This, again, is our our first phase, and so right now we're not getting into the details of which services should be added to this. We're just simply taking a bigger picture look at the Istep and what should be included. And so one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we stress also is that this is really to provide the guidance on the components that you as a grantee, a partner, would include whenever you're working with your customer to create this plan. And so the key is to really be working with the customer when creating the plan, because we really want to try to use the customer-centered, holistic approach whenever putting together this information. And so one of the things that we want to talk about, we left quality of information as just kind of a generic area that, filters, that's applied to all the different components. But we have some tools in place, to verify that, make sure that the information is accurate and current. And some of you may be familiar with our progress page and a 30-day review requirement, so that can help with that area. Normally we would want to say that you're free from typos, but we do understand that we are all human, and that in the case notes section we can't update case notes. We can only provide additional case notes if we have needed any corrections to information. So just be mindful that whenever possible, do the best you can to keep the typos out of the case notes, but we do understand that that happens. We want to make sure that we're using a language that all partners and customers can understand. So with this first go-around and how we're using the Istep and the services that are entered, we're using the services that are very specific, and the ones that are, the same exact services and the names that would be entered into IWDS. It might be helpful, as you're going through this plan, that you're talking to the customer and explaining, so what does this mean, when they're talking about career planning or case management or the different things that they would see on their plan. And then, you can talk those through and explain it to them. In our next go-around, we are going to have the Istep, and the Istep will provide more of a customer-friendly explanation of what those services mean. But for this point in time, we just want to make sure that we, are trying to incorporate the best practice of what does it mean to have the information in Istep or individualized service strategy. Again, if we're going to use acronyms, we want to spell them out at least the first time, so that, or have them somewhere defined, so that everybody's on the same page with what that means. Because maybe if you're in a school versus in, a LEA office, IEP might be, mean two different things. So we want to make sure that whenever we're talking about acronyms, especially when we're working with various partners, that we spell those out. Okay, so for the contact information, we want to make sure that we don't include full SSNs. And one of the things that we put in here is that we want to include the customer's legal name or their legal name, and then also if they go by a different name, we think that would be helpful because then you can definitely identify a person and their eligibility and all the documentation that goes with them for eligibility, but then also know that maybe their name is Frederick, but they go by the name of Jim instead for whatever reason. Whenever you're having that, personal, a personal relationship, I guess you could say. Use the name that they go by. And we have a space for their address and obviously a way to contact them. So phone, texting. I can't remember if it was this project or a different one where they had suggested adding social media as a field. So I think that would be definitely something that we should add to our next application as a place that they could enter social media. As far as workNet is concerned, I would think that would be more so like a Facebook or Instagram or something like that. I'm not so sure about Snapchat because that might be more difficult to get a hold of them, but you can go ahead, that's one way that people have suggested to making sure that they can get a hold of their customers. And then for the meet standards, we have one additional contact person, and then whoever their career planner or caseworkers are, the partner contact information. And so we do have some tools that are in LMI WorkNet. Let me get my little pointer out here. So as you know, the initial information is entered into the LMI WorkNet online application. And so if they're under 18, we're going to go ahead and collect that additional contact information. You might want to add in the case notes if there's additional, that they've moved or that they have, their aunt that you can contact as a backup for contacting this person. The customer can update their personal information in their profile. And then we have the tools on the progress page where the partners can identify the different partners that have access or associated with this customer. And then, as I mentioned, we have the case note tool that you can also use the messaging feature. So if you're working with a customer and you know that they've moved from one house to another house, you could use the case note feature to document that in a case note, but then also send a message to the career planner to let them know that their address has changed. Okay, the next area is assessment, and you could probably talk all day about assessments. Oops, I can get there we go. And so we just listed out a few here for assessing barriers. I think these are kind of like the basics. So you're assessing the barriers, basic skills, family support system, employability skills, skills and interests. And so again, this is a draft, so it can change, but we had put into the exceed standards things that would be like assessing aptitudes. So when we think of assessing aptitudes, that'd be more like thinking about, if a person has the potential to do it, even though they've never received formal training. So a lot of times what I'll think of is the TABE test is great for your academic basic skills testing. And then maybe a person just doesn't do very well in those type of tests, but you put in front of them, a whole like jigsaw puzzle type thing of these different blocks and pieces, and then some people can just look at those things and it's really complex and they can just easily put them together. So maybe they're more mechanical, and that's something that would be something like an aptitude test. We have it in the exceed standards, and other people can, definitely chime in and tell us if we think this should be in the meet standards. But we have it because we're thinking that, as you're working with these customers, depending on, you're interviewing and working with the customer and finding out their skills and interests, and, maybe, and you would have them do an aptitude test, especially, depending on the different types of programs you're offering, or if you have, an employer or specific job that you think this person might be a good match for. Okay, so we have, assessing the everyday life skills. That again, I could see an argument for having that in the regular meet standards, and then also assessing to determine if the customer meets specific employer requirements. So a lot of times we have partners that have very close working relationships with their employers, and so an example of this would be we had one person talk about the other day that they had an employer who said that they have people that have to go out to these different homes, and a lot of these homes that they go to, they have cats. And so they would want a person that is either not allergic to cats, not afraid of cats, or able to at least tolerate cats. So there's little different things like that. That's why we added that to the exceed standards. But we have the places where you can enter in assessment information as it relates to Illinois workNet. The customer enters the initial information into the application, and this would be like the types of barriers they have, their job history, their employment and education history, and then we have those baseline requirements. So we do have quite a few assessment pieces built into that application at the very beginning. And you as a partner can work with the customer and interview them and talk about the different types of barriers that they may have, and document those in the customer's progress page, as well as reviewing their employment and education history and updating information on their progress page. You can also look to see if they have saved resume information or assessment information that's already in Illinois workNet. And if you have other assessments, by all means, please enter them into the assessment tab that is on Illinois workNet. And then you have everything documented for that person in one place. Okay. And feel free to chime in. You can ask questions, make comments. Okay, the next section are our goals section. And so, we're kind of like thinking about goals and objectives, and we were going with the approach that, the goals should include or identify any barriers that need to be addressed, like you're overcoming those barriers. You need to include whatever their education and training goals are and the occupations, and how that kind of all fits together, with the stackable credentials, and, really creating that overall plan as a way to advance them through the career pathway. So whenever we're talking about goals, we're thinking, well, of course, we have some people that have like very immediate need challenges that they need help with like right now. And until we address those barriers right now, they just won't be able to focus and move forward on the other next steps. So we have it broken down into identifying the immediate goals, and then what are the different benchmarks for those immediate goals. So what is the outcome going to be? It needs to be realistic, measurable, attainable. And then we have the where do you see yourself in 90 days, and where would you like to see yourself in 1 year? And so what I'm going to do is show you my computer screen here in a second. And we have a section for, get my screen up here, for goals in, let me move this up here, sorry. Okay, we have an area for goals, and you can go to a person's progress page. We have all the history, employment history, and then we have the goals section. So right now we just have listed short-term goals and long-term goals. So what we want, we recommend adding in here are identifying their immediate goals, 90-day goals, 1-year goals, and then having a discussion including what happens, where would they like to see themselves in 5 years, where would they like to see themselves in 10 years, because the idea is to, be able to draw them through that career pathway, understanding that, situations change and, what their immediate goal is or their immediate need is right now might be different 3 months from now. So you might have to, relook at those. And again, so we're 3 months into it. What's our biggest challenge that we need to overcome right now? Or are there? Are we good to go? Any questions or suggestions on that? Because I'm sure many of you have experience of working with the customers. And again, I welcome your feedback, your thoughts on these types of areas. Okay. Okay. So our next area would be the customer-centered holistic services. And we put that out there because we want to talk about, again, I said it at the very beginning, but we want to make sure that the plan is developed with the customer. And so, they understand, you talk through the different areas of, where they are, where they want to be, so they understand that career pathway, and they understand, the potential that they have and the credentials that they're going to earn, and, help them with identifying those barriers so we can make sure that they help them, do everything we can to help them reach their training and employment goals. So that's what we want to develop with the customer. And then we want to provide a copy of the plan to the customer and be able to, give them a copy of that plan at any point in time. So one of the things that we are working on, you can print out the plan now, but we are working on a printer-friendly view that is a button that you could press, like print customer copy. And at the top of it, it would tell them how they can view their plan at any point in time through their LMI WorkNet account. And it would also have signature lines. So you could have a copy for your files, but then also they would have a copy to take with them and with the instructions on how to access it in the future. And then it would also generate a case note so they know how to, so they have that within their LMI WorkNet account, a case note message. Okay. The other part for the different services is we have a section for our services, so you can identify if it's something that's provided in-house or if it's provided by a partner, so you can identify those. And then you can enter the planned start, planned end date, projected number of hours, but it should be dedicated towards completing that service. And so if you're not already familiar with this, I'll just do a quickie, show you what that looks like in workNet. So I'm on the progress page. I'm on the customer's progress page, and if I hit add service, you can enter the different services types. One question that came up the other day, I just want to make sure I'm addressing it now, is a person says, well, I guess these are WIOA-funded services. You know, I'm assuming they are, but I just want to clarify that whenever we say it's a WIOA service, that if you're using this grant money to pay for it, it's a WIOA service. If you're using some other funding stream or other source, then you can say, no, it's not. So we'll just say yes. And I'm going to just click on something. You can enter in the program name and the description, and then the status, we'll say, is started. I also want to clarify that this says WIOA staff-assisted services must be entered through IWDS. The LMA WorkNet system will sync with them. You can submit a request for the LWIA Career Planner to enter those services. I just want to clarify that whenever you submit a request, it's not requesting that you're allowed to provide that service. It's submitting a request for them to enter a service that you already provided. So you can provide the service, and LMA WorkNet is just a way for you to document that you already provided that service. Whenever you say, you know, if it's started or it's completed, you're telling them that I already completed and I've already started or I've already completed this service, and now I just need you to enter it into IWDS. You don't have to ask, and this isn't like saying to the career planner, can I provide this type of service? I know that was a question. I just want to make sure that that's clear to everyone. Okay, and then when I talked about in the rubric, we have the start and end date. So for plan services, we would have the start date, and then we have the word due date. It's basically like the projected end date. And then weekly hours, again, you can write in any notes. And when you submit the request, basically you're saying that I already provided this service. I just need you to document it in IWDS. For the service provider, you can enter in if it was somebody else, an outside partner that did the training, or if you're the service provider, then you would just, just document that it was you are the one, your organization is the one that provided that service. And then, of course, we have the credentials section where you can add in the credentials that are associated with that service. Okay, I see. Okay, so Sabrina, I see your question about if we're providing GED instruction. I know that that list was updated, so I have a request in for Cody to add those services. There's one in there for GED, so I'll check with him and make sure that that service is in there. Okay, also, would an end date be when they finish their GED or when the semester ends? That is a good question. I don't know if Tammy or Tara, if you have anything to add to Sabrina's question about the end date.
I'm going to double check with Jim, but I would say the end date would be the date they accomplished that specific task, and you have certification. They received the documentation of the GED.
Then, okay, so Bianca didn't know if she had the go-ahead to add services into IWDS. My assumption would be yes, if you have, Tammy, or you might want to address that one.
Okay, which one were you looking at? What is the?
Tanisha Carter, my rep, Bianca, didn't know if she had the go-ahead to add services into IWDS. So,
Okay.
I don't have any reason why I'd say no, she doesn't. But.
Correct. Now, you should be requesting those services to be added through Illinois workNet. So once you have the services added in workNet, then you submit a request to her to add them in IWDS.
Yeah, but she wasn't aware, so she didn't add it in my
services. Yeah, and I think with this first go-around of the apprenticeship programs, it hasn't been real clear as far as whose roles and responsibilities were with with IWDS and in the workNet system. So what you guys need to do is just you make sure that all of your service, and the ones that will be transferred are those that are, and correct me if I'm wrong, Natasha, the ones that are open, not necessarily the ones that, you enter as a plan. So the services that will come over are those that actually have start, and then you request those that be entered into the IWDS system. And then your counterpart, your IWDS counterpart, should receive notification that these need to be added. Is that accurate? Am I accurate on that, Natasha?
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so the other question was about updating Social Security numbers and birth date. You can just contact us. Just send me an email, and I either send us an email and just to let us know that you have several customers that need that information updated. Don't include their Social Security numbers or anything like that in the email. Just provide us your phone number, and so we'll just call you. And because we're not allowed to put Social Security numbers and birth dates and first name, last name, all in email. Portal and haven't received response. Okay, I have to look at that. I know that I talked to Jim this morning, so that's Cody. Cody's the only one that can, our programmers are the only one that can update that information. I can't update that information. Okay, so where are we? Okay, so whenever we're going through and adding in the services, we want to identify the supportive services that are address each of the barriers, and obviously the training services, and then the job and career-related services. Okay. And then the timeliness. We've tried to keep just a general 5 days of, just to keep it simple. That's really the main reason why we chose 5 days, is just to really, again, keep it simple, that, we want to make sure that you're developing the initial plan within 5 days of completing the assessment. And so we do have an area on the dashboard, and that's available. That I changed the text out this morning, so I'll have to change this, but I'll show you in just a second, that you can easily see who has planned services and who doesn't have planned services. And then We also have an update because we want to make sure that everybody knows that the plan is, we have the plan, but it's a living document too. So it's a plan, and then we have to, reassess, look at the plan, update it as needed. And so we do have tools in place to help with reviewing that information, and that's part of the progress page 30-day review. So we do have some tools that are in place to help you with identifying those people that need to have either, maybe, I know everybody is really busy, so people fall through the cracks. But the dashboards that we have can be used to help you with identifying who is ready for an update and who. So I mentioned that we have an area that has like the progress page. So once a person, couple things. We have the progress page so that the progress page is a review is due every 30 days. And if you have people that need to have the progress page updated, and so basically what that means is you're going to review all the information that's in the system on their progress page, which includes like their barriers, their goals, their services. And whenever that information is due, then you'll have a notice at the top of the screen that tells you that their progress page is needs to be updated. Oh, my computer's locked up. Alrighty. Oh, yeah, here we go. Okay. So when the progress page is ready for review, basically all you have to do is say that review the information, of course, and then say that I reviewed it and submit it, and then you're good for another 30 days. That's one way to make sure the plan is staying updated. When you have your initial plan, right now we can say that this person doesn't have planned services, or they don't have their initial service strategy available. And so you can see who does not have their planned services. So you can go to those people and update and add those planned services into their progress page. So when we say that, we mean to go into the services section and add in services. Okay. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions? Or Tammy, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you covered this well. Like Natasha said, this is going to be a two-part because we'll go even further in depth in the Istep. And once again, I think we're doing a good job on the front end with eligibility now. So now it's just a matter of making sure that services are entered. And we'll be revising the service document. We'll get that out to you here soon too with some additional activities, because I know we had some people that wanted like GED added and a few other activities. So we'll go ahead and get that out to you here real soon too. But besides that, if you guys have any questions or concerns, once again, Tara's going to handle the grantees and help with technical assistance in the Chicago area, and then I'm going to take down south. So if you have any specific technical assistance issues and you're in the southern part of the state, please call me. Or if you have any questions and you're in the Chicago or northern area, just get a hold of Tara with those. So Tara, was there anything you want to add? We're moving in the right direction. I think there is, for your information, there is another NOFO that has been released. We had a bidders conference here in Springfield yesterday, and then there's going to be one in Naperville. I believe it's next Wednesday. So if you're interested in another opportunity, with another one, go to the bidders conference. And, there's, like I said, the front end has changed considerably from the last time where, we're making progress in getting the systems developed for this. So being a pilot project, we're trying to improve as we go along. Natasha, you have anything else?
I do not.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we're going to wrap this up and let you guys have an extra 15 minutes of your day. Okay, do we know if there will be another NOFO next year? That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. I would say 50-50, maybe. I mean, it depends upon the progression of these grants and how well we do with these grants is a lot of it, because these are pilot projects. So, there's always an opportunity. But like I said, once again, if you're interested, there is one out now, and the application, I believe, is due on May 1st. So if you go on the Illinois WorkNet site, you'll see it on the home page there also on the Illinois WorkNet site. Can we submit for a continuation of our current project or new projects? Jamal, let me double check on that one, and I'll get back with you guys as far as I anticipate it's going to be new projects and not a continuation of your existing projects. But let me follow up with you, and I'll send you an email on that. It's for the same type of work. It's for career pathways, so it's youth career pathways. Apprenticeships, I think the original, when we had an apprenticeship NOFO and a career pathway NOFO, it's all rolled into one NOFO now. So if you want to do apprenticeships as part of a career pathway. Like I said, I would recommend you go into the Illinois WorkNet, and I can type that in there, homepage. Net.com, is that right, Natasha?
MyWorkNet.com, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I recommend you going there to the homepage. There are actually 3 opportunities. There's one with a talent pipeline, there's one with an innovations, and then there's the youth career pathways. So take a look at the NOFOs and take